The Galactic Council Chamber floated in orbit above the golden world of Zinthus. It was the largest and oldest hall of power in the known universe. Inside, light crystals shimmered across the marble walls, and thousands of alien ambassadors sat in curved rows that circled a single empty platform. That platform was where Earth once stood. The Council had gathered for one reason: to decide the fate of humanity. A low hum filled the chamber as the Speaker of the Council, a tall and glass-skinned creature named Valreen, lifted his glowing staff. "We begin the vote," he announced, his voice echoing in dozens of languages at once. The motion: to exile the species known as humans from all galactic alliances. The room erupted in whispers. Some species nodded in agreement. Others looked nervous. The humans had only been part of the galaxy for 100 years, a short time compared to the ancient races. Yet in that short time they had changed everything. When humans first arrived, they were curious, kind, and eager to learn. They built trade routes, shared technology, and helped colonies that no one else cared about. But then came the wars. Wars that the humans never started but always finished. When pirate fleets attacked, humans fought back with bravery that frightened even their allies. When disease spread across planets, human doctors stayed behind to help, even when it meant dying with the sick. To many aliens, humans were unpredictable, too emotional, too dangerous. One ambassador, a scaled being from the planet Draxel, hissed loudly. "They think with their hearts, not their minds. They risk everything for others. No logic, only chaos." But another voice spoke up, a soft one from a small, furry alien named Looney. "And yet, they save worlds we would have left to die." The Speaker banged his staff. "Enough, begin the vote." 1,000 light crystals lit up around the chamber. Red meant exile, blue meant keep. Slowly, one by one, they began to glow red. The result was clear before the vote even ended. Out of 1023 worlds, 1,001 voted to exile Earth. The Speaker turned toward the glowing screen. "The decision is made. Humanity is hereby removed from the Galactic Union, effective immediately. No trade, no protection, no contact." For a long moment the hall was silent. Then the alien delegates stood and began to leave. Some walked with pride, others with guilt. Only a few stayed behind, shaking their heads. Far away in the small blue world orbiting a yellow sun, the message reached Earth. At first, the humans didn't believe it. The Galactic Union, the very organization they had helped rebuild after the Orion Plague, had voted to exile them. The news spread across every screen, every city, every colony. But something strange happened. There was no panic. No fear, no begging. In fact, people started to smile. In a command center under the Rocky Mountains, General Marcus Hale watched the message with a quiet grin. "They think they can exile us," he said. "Fine, let's see what happens when they lose us." In a research lab in Nairobi, Dr. Layla Karim turned off her monitor and said softly, "Then we make our own future." In Tokyo, engineers gathered around a holographic design of a new kind of starship. They didn't argue. They didn't wait for permission. They simply got to work. Across the world, old rivals began to unite. Countries that had once competed for space now shared plans. Factories that had built war machines now built colony ships. Old flags faded. New ones were painted. The flag of humanity. The United Nations was transformed overnight. It became the Human Alliance Council. Its first and only rule was simple: we will depend on no one but ourselves. The sky above Earth grew bright with activity. Thousands of shuttles lifted off every day. On the moon, massive shipyards came alive. On Mars, new domes expanded into entire cities. The asteroid belt became a mining zone for metals and fuel. Even the dark side of Mercury was filled with solar stations. Humanity was not preparing for war. They were preparing for departure. When alien spies came to watch, they were confused. Humans were supposed to be afraid, but instead they looked excited. One spy reported back, "They're calling it the Exodus Project. They say they're going to build their own way to the stars." The Galactic Council laughed when they heard this. "Impossible," said the Draxil ambassador. "They don't have the technology to leave the galaxy, but humans had a habit of doing the impossible. In less than 10 years, they built ships capable of faster-than-light travel beyond known limits. They named them the Orcs. Each Ark carried millions of people, animals, and seeds, not to flee, but to begin again somewhere untouched. The first test ship, Hope 1, launched from lunar orbit with a trail of blue light. Inside the command deck, Captain Elena Cross stood before her crew. She was young, with sharp eyes and calm strength. "The galaxy voted to exile us," she said softly. "They think they ended our story, but they only gave us a new chapter." When Hope 1 vanished into the darkness, the entire planet held its breath. Then a cheer rose from every city, every base, every colony. Humanity was moving forward. Meanwhile, at the Galactic Council, the speaker received a transmission from a scout near Sol system. "Report," Valrine said. The alien scout's voice shook. "Sir, they're building something huge. Thousands of ships. Their planet glows brighter than before. They're leaving." Valrine frowned. "Leaving? Where?" "We don't know," the scout said. "But they call it the Great Departure. They say they're done with us." For the first time in centuries, silence filled the council chamber. The speaker looked out toward the dark stars on the holomap. The small blue dot labeled Earth blinked once and disappeared from the galactic network. In that quiet moment, every ambassador felt something they had not felt before. A strange, cold fear, because they realized something too late. They had not exiled a weak world. They had exiled the one species that never waited for permission to rise. And somewhere beyond the edge of known space, the first human fleet burned through the darkness, carrying laughter, courage, and a promise. They didn't wait to be told twice they were gone. 10 years passed since Earth was exiled. The stars around Sol system looked brighter now, not because they had changed, but because of what humans had built among them. From the dark side of the moon to the frozen plains of Mars, life was everywhere. Gigantic shipyards circled the planets like silver rings. Thousands of ships hovered in orbit, glowing softly like floating cities. The air was filled with the hum of engines and human voices working together. No one had seen the planet, Earth, this alive since the beginning of the 21st century. The Human Alliance Council had one purpose: to prepare the species for departure beyond the galaxy. The exile that was supposed to break them had become their greatest challenge, and humans loved challenges. Factories on Mars never slept. On Earth, millions worked side by side to build starship parts. Robots handled heavy materials while children in schools learned to code navigation programs and design new engines. Humanity was no longer divided by borders or race. They saw themselves as one, the children of Earth. Captain Elena Cross stood on the bridge of the massive command ship Arc Dawn, staring through the transparent dome at the glowing curve of the planet. The sight filled her chest with quiet pride. She had once been a pilot in a small space defense unit. Now she led an entire fleet. Her second officer, a calm man named Robert Kane, joined her. "Hard to believe it's been 10 years, he said. Elena smiled slightly. 10 years since the galaxy said we were not welcome. And look at us now." Robert nodded. "Do you think they'll ever understand what they lost?" "Maybe one day," she replied softly. "But we're not building to prove anything to them. We're building for our children." Outside the window, a convoy of ships flew by, small transports carrying seeds, animals, and archives of every human culture. They were called the Seeds of Earth, and their mission was to carry the memory of humanity wherever the Orcs would go. The Council on Zinthus, the center of galactic government, watched all this through long-range scanners. Their reports were filled with confusion. One alien minister slammed his tentacle against the table. "They were supposed to fade away without our support. Instead, they grow stronger." Another delegate whispered, "They have developed new engines. Our scientists can't even explain them." The speaker, Valrine, looked worried. "If they continue like this, they may leave our reach forever. And if they come back—" He didn't finish his sentence. Everyone in the chamber understood. Meanwhile, on Earth, life was changing faster than ever. Pollution dropped. Old cities turned into green zones filled with gardens and solar towers. Technology became simpler and stronger. People started using energy that came from space storms and asteroid cores. Even the poorest on Earth had homes, food, and education. No one was left behind. It wasn't perfect, but it was human, built with heart, courage, and teamwork. Dr. Layla Karim, one of the leading scientists of the Exodus project, stood inside the testing chamber of the new drive engine. The engine pulsed with blue light, bending the space around it. She looked at her students and said proudly, "We call it the Aurora Core. It doesn't travel through space and it moves space itself. This is what will take us beyond the galaxy. When they turned it on, the ground trembled and time itself seemed to stretch for a second. The readings were beyond anything known to science. The Aurora Core worked. Humanity now had the power to cross galactic borders. A message went out from Earth to all colonies and outposts. The Great Departure begins. Billions gathered in the cities, on the moon and across Mars. Families hugged. Children waved flags and elders cried softly. As the countdown started, Captain Elena Cross stood before a giant window in the command deck of Arc Dawn. She pressed the communication switch and spoke to the entire fleet. "This is Admiral Elena Cross," she began, her voice calm but filled with emotion. 10 years ago we were told we did not belong. They said we were reckless, dangerous, and too human. But they forgot one thing: humanity doesn't give up. We learn. We build, we rise. Today we leave not as the exiled, but as explorers. Her words spread across every ship, every home, and every colony. "Let the galaxy remember," she said, "that when they closed their doors, we built our own stars." The final countdown began. 10, 9, 8. Lights flared across the solar system. From Earth to Mars, the skies glowed like dawn. The great ships of humanity, the Orcs, began to move. 3, 2, 1. A thunder of engines roared across the void. Space bent and folded as blue light surrounded the fleet. In an instant, the ships vanished, not destroyed but gone beyond known space. For a moment, silence filled the galaxy. Then far away on Zinthus, the Galactic Council received hundreds of strange readings. Space itself rippled where the humans had disappeared. Valreen, the speaker, stared at the glowing screens. What did they do?" he whispered. An old Sarathi ambassador, one of the few who had once defended Earth, gave a quiet smile. "They didn't run away," he said. "They built their own path." The other delegates looked nervous. "Where do you think they went?" one asked. The Sarathi shook his head. "Beyond the map. Beyond what we can see." The council called emergency meetings. Military fleets were sent to investigate the space around Sol system. But when they arrived, all they found was emptiness, and a single message written in drifting light near Jupiter's orbit. "We thank you for our exile." It gave us purpose. The words burned into every alien mind. For the first time in galactic history, the mighty council had no answer. They had underestimated the one race that never followed orders: humans. Years passed again. The galaxy moved on. Trade continued, wars came and went, and slowly, memories of Earth began to fade. But sometimes, deep in the quiet hours of night on alien worlds, observers swore they saw a strange blue shimmer on the edge of the sky, like the wake of an invisible ship passing by. No one could explain it. Some said it was ghosts. Others believed it was the light of the human fleet traveling through the unknown. Back on Earth, only a few people remained: caretakers and historians. They lived in peaceful silence, tending to the planet that had once been the heart of a great civilization. And every night, when they looked up at the stars, they saw faint trails of light stretching beyond the Milky Way, proof that their people were still out there. Humanity had been exiled from the galaxy. But instead of fading away, they had written their own destiny among the stars. They didn't wait for approval. They didn't wait for permission. They simply moved forward, as they always had. 200 years passed since the Great Departure. The stars had changed, but the memory of Earth had almost faded from the galaxy's mind. The Galactic Council still ruled from Zinthus, but the halls were quieter now. Trade had slowed, technology had stopped improving, and creativity had turned cold. The galaxy had become peaceful, too peaceful. Without humans, there were no daring explorers, no crazy inventors, no passionate dreamers. To most species, humanity had become a myth. Some said they had died out. Others believed they had turned into energy beings or vanished into black holes. The truth was that no one really knew, until one day a strange signal appeared. It started as a faint pulse from deep space, beyond the edge of known maps. At first, the Council's scanners ignored it. Then it grew louder, clearer, repeating in a rhythm that every translator recognized. It was a human heartbeat. Within hours, the entire Council chamber was filled. Ambassadors shouted, scientists rushed in, and soldiers stared at the screen in disbelief. The pulse formed into a wave pattern, and then into words written in light. "We are coming home." The chamber froze. Speaker Valreen was long gone, but his descendant, Speaker Ren Valtar, looked at the message with wide eyes. "Impossible," he whispered. "They vanished beyond our galaxy, but the signal didn't stop." Moments later, the outer defense stations of the Council's territory detected movement, massive energy readings unlike anything they had ever seen. And then, the stars changed color. From the darkness beyond the rim, something emerged. Not one ship, but hundreds, each the size of a moon, each glowing with soft blue light. Their hulls shimmered like living metal, their movements graceful and silent. They bore a simple symbol on their surface, a circle of blue and white with a single line through it. The mark of Earth. Every sensor screamed warnings. Defense fleets rushed to position. The alien admiral shouted commands. "They're entering the border zone. Prepare interceptors." But when the first fleet approached, their ships simply stopped. Their engines failed, weapons went offline, and the human ships didn't fire a single shot. Instead, one of them sent a signal. A holographic image appeared across every screen in the galaxy. A calm, familiar face. It was Admiral Elena Cross. She looked older, but time had not touched her the way it should have. Her hair was silver now, her eyes bright as ever. She smiled gently. "Greetings, members of the Galactic Council. It has been some time." Silence filled every world. No one dared to speak, she continued. "2 centuries ago, you voted to exile us. You were right to be afraid. We were reckless then. We were still learning who we were. But we obeyed your decision. We left." Her voice softened, warm and steady. "And in that exile we grew. We crossed galaxies. We found worlds beyond imagination. We built new homes not with weapons but with hope. We found peace within ourselves." Behind her, the image widened, showing cities floating in space, glowing gardens across planets with twin suns, and fleets moving like silver birds through cosmic light. The council members were speechless. They had expected war, not beauty. Elena smiled again. "We did not return for revenge. We came back to say thank you." Her words echoed through the chamber. "Thank you for pushing us to grow. Thank you for showing us that we didn't need permission to reach the stars." Speaker Ren Valtar swallowed hard. What is it that you want, human?" Elena looked into the camera, her eyes kind but firm. "We want nothing. We offer everything. The technology we've built can heal dying worlds, restore broken suns, and end hunger across galaxies. But we will only share it with those who have learned humility, not fear." Across the galaxy, entire planets watched the transmission. Ordinary aliens, farmers, students, workers, stared in awe. Many of them had only heard stories about humans. Now they saw the truth. They were not monsters. They were not savages. They were builders of light. The council broke into arguments. Some wanted to welcome them. Others feared them. But even as they debated, the humans began helping without waiting for permission. They sent energy waves that repaired broken satellites, healed failing ecosystems, and stabilized suns that were dying. They didn't ask for gold, trade, or power. They simply said, "Consider this a gift from an old friend." For the first time in centuries, the galaxy came alive again. Creativity returned. Artists painted again. Scientists started asking new questions. Hope returned where it had been lost. One alien historian watching the revival wrote quietly in his journal, "They exiled Earth because they feared its fire. But now that fire warms us all." Later, the Galactic Council called a special meeting. Every seat was filled. Speaker Ren Valtar stood before the assembly. His voice trembled slightly as he spoke. "The humans have offered us friendship once more. I move that we restore Earth's membership to the Galactic Union." The vote began, the same as it had 2 centuries ago. But this time, as the crystals lit up, almost all glowed blue. When the final count ended, the speaker raised his staff. "The decision is made. Earth and her people are welcomed back to the Galactic Union." Cheers erupted through the chamber. The delegates stood, clapping their hands or waving their tendrils. Even those who had once voted for exile now bowed their heads in respect. Far away, aboard the flagship Arc Dawn, Elena Cross received the message. She stood silently on the observation deck, staring out at the sea of stars. Around her, young officers, descendants of the first exiles, smiled with joy. Robert Kane's grandson, now the new fleet commander, turned to her. Admiral, the Council has voted. Earth is back. Elena nodded slowly. No, she said with a small smile. Earth never left. It just found a bigger sky. The human fleet spread its wings across the stars once more, not as wanderers, but as guides. They built stations to help young civilizations grow, taught peaceful technology, and shared stories of courage, loss, and unity. And as the galaxy entered a new golden age, one truth became clear. The exile had never been a punishment. It had been humanity's greatest gift, because in being cast out they had learned to rise higher. Centuries later, when children across the galaxy learned history, they ended the chapter about Ea,